February 24, 2022, nang pinasok ng Russian troops and tanks ang Ukraine in what Russian President Vladimir Putin called a special military operation. Sinundan agad ito ng iba't ibang pag-atake on multiple fronts targeting multiple cities in Ukraine. Soon it became clear na isa itong full-scale invasion. Makalipas ang isang taon, ano na nga ba ang nangyayari sa Russia-Ukraine war? Posible at malapit na ba itong matapos? Here's what you need to know. Ayon sa UN Human Rights Office, hindi bababa sa 8,000 ang bilang ng mga namatay na sibilyan dahil sa giyera. Nasa 13,000 naman ang bilang ng mga sugatan. Kinailangan ding magbukas ang iba't ibang humanitarian corridors na tinatawag ring humanitarian safe passages. Ito ang mga napagkasunduang daan o ruta sa gitna ng armed conflict na maaaring gamitin upang makapasok at makalabas sa lugar ang anumang humanitarian assistance at makalikas ang mga sibilyan pati na ang mga sugatan o may sakit. Natutulungan nito ang nasa 18 million Ukrainians na naipit sa giyera. 14 million of them were displaced from their homes. Ayon naman sa UN Refugee Agency, nasa mahigit 8 million Ukrainian refugees na ang naitala across Europe. Mariing kinundina ng UN High Commissioner for Human Rights ang human cost of the suffering and devastation brought by the ongoing conflict. Even children were not spared from the artillery shellings and missile strikes. Inilarawan ng UNICEF bilang a year of horror ang nakalipas na taon. Maraming bata ang kasali sa bilang ng nasawi at nasugatan, at mas marami pa ang hindi lamang nawalan ng pamilya, kundi pati ng tahanan at eskwelahan. Dumoble ang bilang ng mga bata below the poverty line from 43% to 82%, at nasa 1.5 million children ang maaaring makaranas ng depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder at iba pang mental health issues. Russia's war against Ukraine does not only threaten the world order, but it also has ripple effects across the globe.
Russia diluted their own borders now because it declared 5 Ukrainian regions their territory and demand everybody to accept this annexation. It's never happened since the 20th century, and the war of such scale never happened in Europe since the Second World War.
Blatant violation ito ng UN Charter. This is a grave threat to the peace and stability of the entire globe. Despite everything, there is still a modicum of domestic support by Russians kasi nga in their minds they are being threatened. And Putin is actually their hero for standing up against the West, and not only that, for doing everything to protect Russia's security interests.
Sa simula ng invasion, mabilis na nasakop ng Russia ang malalawak na parte ng teritoryo ng Ukraine. Pero hanggang ngayon, Russian troops have failed to seize Kyiv, Ukraine's capital.
They aimed to overthrow the government in several days and to impose the puppet government. These plans failed, and this invasion was repelled by the Ukrainian people. And this was the main mistake of Russian political leadership, who thought that they will be fighting with the state structures only, not with the whole people. It's never happened, and the whole people of Ukraine is resilient and is fighting to have their freedom and their lives.
Russia ang may second most powerful military in the world. Sa katunayan, nagpadala si President Putin ng nasa 200,000 Russian soldiers to capture Ukraine. Sa kabila ng pag-aakala na madali nilang masasakop ang naturang bansa, isa pala itong malaking miscalculation.
Even si Putin is surprised na until now, kasi siguro ang calculation nila na mabilis lang, no? Itong giyera na to. Kasi sa teorya sa international relations, oftentimes non-democratic or authoritarian leaders, sila yung prone to miscalculation when going to war. At yung mga democratic countries, mas maganda yung record nila kasi mas available yung information, no? Mas transparent, mas may mga checks.
Over the course of the year, both sides gained and lost territory.
We have stabilized the front lines and we pushed them from several regions. Now our military are reinforced and around 1 million people joined the army. It was a voluntary action. We have significant manpower. We are resilient and we are ready to fight. According to the last poll, 89% of Ukrainians are willing to fight even if Russia will use nuclear weapons against us.
Ngunit matapos ang ilang major retreats for Russia during the invasion, the Russia-Ukraine war seems far from being over.
It looks like it will be a long war for another year or something.
There was a time na yung consensus, no, sa pag-aaral ng international relations that the age of conventional warfare is over because may nuclear weapons ka na at yung susunod na giyera between major powers will be the end of civilization. But what we're seeing in the invasion of Ukraine is that pwede pa rin, conventional warfare can still exist short of nuclear warfare. What we're seeing right now, and tatagal pa to, at kasi maraming debate to, no, na is this a new Cold War? Kasi nung Cold War may mga proxy wars, di ba? Yung giyera sa Vietnam was actually internal siya, pero it's actually the US versus the Soviet Union during that time.
According to the UK Defense Ministry, nasa 200,000 ang estimated casualties ng Russian forces mula noong nagsimula ang giyera. 60,000 dito ang recorded deaths. Ayon naman sa isang Ukrainian official, as of December 2022, nasa 13,000 na sundalo na ang nasasawi mula sa kanilang puwersa.
Ukrainian losses of Ukrainian military are significantly less because we are on defense, but the war is on our territory and there is an awful collateral damage.
Marami ang tumutuligsa sa Russia dahil sa inilunsad nilang unprovoked war. Inaakusahan rin ito ng war crimes. Pinanindigan naman ng Ukraine at ng mga kaalyansa nitong Western countries ang rejection of all of Russia's rationales. Ilan lamang ang US, United Kingdom, European Union, Japan at Australia sa mga bansang nagpadala hindi lamang ng humanitarian aid kundi pati ng military assistance sa Ukraine. Maging ang NATO, nagbigay ng armas sa Kyiv, pero hindi pa rin ito ina-admit ang Ukraine bilang miyembro. Noong March 2, 2022, during its General Assembly, UN member states overwhelmingly voted for Russia to withdraw its military forces from Ukraine. Since then, UN has adopted other key resolutions addressing various concerns about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Nananatili namang close ally and supporter ng Russia ang Belarus, while many countries such as China, India, and Turkey have maintained neutrality so far. But where does the Philippines stand among the rest of the world? February 13, pinasalamatan ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky si President Bongbong Marcos sa kanyang suporta para sa soberanya ng Ukraine. Sa kanilang pag-uusap sa isang phone call, sinabi ni President Bongbong Marcos na kaakibat ng Ukraine ang Pilipinas in their search for peace.
When you say neutrality, ang ibig sabihin hindi ka pumuposisyon, no comment ka sa lahat, wala kang kinakampihan, ngunit sa tingin ko na-expose yung problema ng posisyon na yon para sa Pilipinas. Kasi hindi tayo self-sufficient both economically and in terms of security, no? Napaka-vulnerable natin. At kung titignan natin yung mga posisyon natin before, hindi tayo naging neutral pag ang inaapi na ay mas maliit na bansa. Kasi ramdam din natin yon sa ating kasaysayan, sa ating posisyon ngayon, na kailangan natin tumindig against violations of international law. I think what President Marcos has been exposed to is yung increasing vulnerability ng Pilipinas.
Ngayong buwan, isang sorpresang pagbisita ang isinagawa ni US President Joe Biden sa Kyiv. Dagdag dito, sa kanyang speech sa Poland noong February 22, sinabi niyang hindi raw mananalo ang Russia sa Ukraine. Sagot ito sa anti-West speech ni President Putin sa kanyang State of the Nation address noong February 21, where he suspended the Kremlin's participation in the nuclear arms treaty, as well as accused the West of escalating the conflict in Ukraine. But even earlier, on February 17, Nagsalita si President Zelensky sa opening ng Munich Security Conference in Germany. Dito ay humingi siya ng mas marami at agarang suporta. On the eve of the war's anniversary, ipinagpatuloy ng UN General Assembly ang kanilang emergency special session and renewed calls for peace as well as called for an immediate end to the war.
We are asking for all UN members to condemn Russia as an aggressor because there are many countries which haven't done it yet.
Ito yung hinihiling ngayon na magkaroon sana ng constraint, no? Because in wars, hindi mo na maiiwasan yan pag nagsimula na yan, no? One decision will lead to another and magigising na lang tayo that it is no longer a war in that part of the world.
Sa pagpapatuloy ng sigalot, hindi maiiwasan ang pangamba sa lalo pang paghaba nito.
The greatest fear right now is that China will participate because the moment it gets involved, then what is happening in Ukraine will truly be a proxy war. Meaning, Russia is there but China will be there helping Russia allegedly, and Europe and the US on the side of Ukraine. At kung mangyari yon, lalong tatagal itong gerang to kasi marami ka ng players, marami ka ng ibang bansa, and the more lives will be lost and yung ating disruptions on supply chains, on energy will continue.
Kasabay ang patuloy na epekto ng giyera sa buong mundo, may pag-asa kayang matapos na ito?
Every war is ending with a diplomatic solution and with talks. But as of now, we don't see the room for the discussion yet because we have a precondition of liberating of our territories. And Russian Federation is already crying everywhere for having peace talks, but they have also precondition. They want us to, and the international community, to accept the annexation of the territories that they have captured. They want them to be recognized as a Russian territory. They want us actually to surrender.
And in this, Ukraine remains steadfast.
Russians made us clear that this is the war for our existence. So we cannot surrender. We have no room for that.